The emergency sirens of Station Theta 7 pierced through the artificial atmosphere like screaming metal, sending every alien species into immediate panic.
Captain Zexstar of the Galactic Council watched through reinforced viewing ports as his crew scrambled across the command deck, their various appendages clicking, slithering, and fluttering in pure terror.
Status report.
Zexstar's forearms gestured rapidly in the traditional Vortak communication style, though his voice carried through the universal translator with barely contained fear.
Sir, the Void Serpent has broken containment. Lieutenant Cheelin's crystalline form shifted from blue to deep red, indicating maximum stress levels. Designation, Mortis Rex.
The most dangerous creature in known space.
Zexstar's blood ran cold. Every spacefaring civilization knew of Mortis Rex.
The ancient dragon-like entity had terrorized the galaxy for over 3,000 years.
Its mere presence could drive entire star systems to madness.
Its breath weapon could melt through quantum shields like they were paper. Its telepathic screams had once caused an entire fleet of warships to turn their guns on themselves.
How did this happen?
Zexstar demanded, his tail lashing behind him in agitation. The human research vessel New Horizon was attempting to study the creature, Chief Science Officer Velmoth reported, his insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. Their containment protocols apparently failed during the transfer to our station.
Humans, Zexstar muttered. The newest species to join the Galactic Council, these strange bipedal creatures had already earned a reputation for reckless curiosity and impossible survival instincts. Most council members still couldn't believe such a primitive species had managed to develop faster than light travel. Where are the humans now? Zexstar asked.
Unknown, sir. We lost contact with their research team when the creature broke free. We assume they're dead.
The station shuddered violently as something massive struck the outer hull.
Through the viewing port, Zexstar could see the nightmare that had haunted galactic legends.
Mortis Rex stretched nearly 2 kilometers from snout to tail, its scales shifting between absolute black and deep purple.
Energy crackled around its massive form like trapped lightning. Its eyes burned with an inner fire that seemed to peer directly into one's soul. All ships, maintain maximum distance.
Zexstar commanded into his communication device. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage.
Sir, Communications Officer Threndal's voice trembled. We're receiving multiple distress calls from civilian vessels in the area.
They're requesting permission to flee the system. Granted. Tell everyone to get as far away as possible. This creature has destroyed entire civilizations.
We need to contact the council immediately and request. The words died in Zexstar's throat as he saw something impossible through the viewing port. A small figure had somehow appeared on the station's external hull, floating in the vacuum of space without any protective gear.
The figure appeared to be humanoid, roughly the size of a juvenile. What in the name of the Seven Suns is that? Zexstar whispered. Velmoth's compound eyes focused on the figure.
Sir, sensors indicate it's a human child.
Female.
Approximately 8 standard years old based on their species' development patterns.
A child? Zexstar stared in disbelief. How is she surviving in vacuum? And where did she come from? Unknown, sir. Human physiology shouldn't allow for vacuum survival, but there she is. The dragon had noticed the small figure too. Mortis Rex's massive head turned toward the child, its burning eyes fixating on her with predatory interest. The creature's mouth opened, revealing teeth the size of starship missiles, each one capable of piercing through reinforced hull plating. She's going to die, Lieutenant Cheelin whispered, her crystalline form now flickering between red and pale white. That poor child doesn't understand what she's facing. But something strange was happening. The child wasn't fleeing in terror like every other living being that had ever encountered Mortis Rex. Instead, she was floating closer to the massive creature, her small arms extended as if reaching for something precious. Is she insane? Threndal's voice cracked. Every instinct should be screaming at her to run. Humans, Velmoth clicked nervously. Their species seems to lack proper fear responses. It's probably why so many of them die in foolish accidents. Zexstar activated the external sensors to maximum magnification. The child's face was clearly visible now, and what he saw defied everything he understood about intelligent behavior. She was smiling. Not the twisted grin of madness, but the pure, innocent smile of a young being who had discovered something wonderful.
She's talking to it, Sheilin reported, her voice barely above a whisper. The sensors are picking up vocalizations, but they're too faint to translate properly.
Talking to Mortis Rex? Zextar's voice rose in disbelief. That creature doesn't communicate. It only destroys. Every xenobiologist in the galaxy agrees on this point.
But the evidence before their eyes suggested otherwise. The massive dragon's head lowered slowly until it was level with the small human child. Those burning eyes that had driven countless beings to madness seemed to focus on her with something that looked almost like curiosity. Sir, Velmotha's voice was tight with fear. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildup within the creature.
It's preparing to use its breath weapon. At point-blank range, Frendel added.
The child will be vaporized instantly. Every being on the command deck watched in horrified fascination as Mortis Rex's throat began to glow with internal fire. The creature's mouth opened wide, energy crackling between its fangs like captured starlight.
This was it.
They were about to witness the death of an innocent child at the hands of the galaxy's most feared predator. But, instead of unleashing destruction, something impossible happened. The child reached forward with both hands and placed them gently on the dragon's massive snout, just above its nostrils. The gesture was tender, careful, like someone trying not to startle a nervous pet. The energy buildup in Mortis Rex's throat faded immediately. The creature's eyes, which had been burning with malevolent fire, suddenly dimmed to a soft golden glow. Its massive form relaxed, and what could only be described as a purr rumbled from deep within its chest.
That's impossible, Velmoth breathed. Mortis Rex doesn't have a docile setting.
It's a creature of pure aggression and destruction.
Maybe, Zextar said slowly, we've been wrong about it this entire time.
The child was speaking again, her voice too quiet for their sensors to pick up clearly. But whatever she was saying seemed to have a profound effect on the ancient creature. Mortis Rex lowered its head even further, bringing its massive eye level with the small human. She's not afraid, Sheilin observed with wonder.
She's treating it like a friend. Or family, Frendal added quietly.
The child did something then that sent shockwaves through every observer on the station. She leaned forward and pressed her lips gently against the dragon's snout, just between its enormous nostrils.
A kiss.
Simple, innocent, and completely impossible. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Mortis Rex's entire body shuddered, not with rage or aggression, but with what could only be described as emotion. The creature's eyes closed, and it made a sound unlike anything in the xenobiological databases. Not a roar or a scream, but something soft and vulnerable.
By the eternal void, Zextar whispered. She's not controlling it. She's comforting it.
Sir, Communications Officer Threndal interrupted, his voice shaking.
We're receiving a transmission from the human research vessel. They report that the child's name is Emma Santos, daughter of Dr. Sarah Santos, the mission's chief xenobiologist. She apparently wandered away from her mother during the evacuation and somehow made it to the exterior hull. How did she survive in vacuum? Velmoth demanded.
They say she has a rare genetic condition that allows her to hold her breath for extended periods and withstand extreme pressure changes. Her mother is demanding immediate retrieval. Zextar continued watching the impossible scene before them. The child was now sitting cross-legged on the dragon's snout, her small hands stroking the creature's scales as if comforting a massive pet. Mortis Rex remained perfectly still, its eyes half-closed in what appeared to be contentment.
Sir, how do we proceed? Sheilin asked.
Every protocol says we should evacuate the system and call for military intervention.
And risk harming the child?
But, sir, that creature is the most dangerous entity in known space.
It could turn violent at any moment. Zextar considered this. Everything he had ever learned about xenobiology and galactic history suggested his officer was correct. Mortis Rex was a force of pure destruction, incapable of reason or mercy. Yet the evidence before his eyes told a completely different story. Maintain position, he decided. But keep all defensive systems ready. And contact the Galactic Council. They need to see this.
What should we tell them, sir? Zextar looked back at the viewing port where an 8-year-old human child was gently patting the head of the galaxy's most feared predator while humming what sounded like a lullaby. Tell them, he said slowly, that everything we thought we knew about humans and about Mortis Rex might be wrong. And that we're witnessing something that will change how we understand both species forever. The child looked up then, seeming to notice the station for the first time. She waved cheerfully at the viewing port with one small hand while keeping the other resting on Mortis Rex's scales. The dragon opened one massive eye and followed her gaze, looking directly at the station with an expression that seemed almost amused.
She's waving at us, Threndel said weakly. And the dragon is looking right at us, Sheelin added. Like it knows we're watching. Because it probably does, Zexstar realized. Mortis Rex is an ancient being with telepathic abilities. It's always known we were here. The question is why it's chosen not to attack.
As if in response to his words, the child stood up on the dragon's snout and pointed toward the station. She said something to Mortis Rex, her voice still too quiet to catch, but the creature's response was clear enough. It began to move slowly toward the station, carrying its small passenger with the careful precision of a parent carrying a sleeping child.
Red alert! Velmoth called out. The creature is approaching. Hold your positions, Zexstar commanded. It's not attacking. Look at its body language.
It's being careful not to frighten us.
Sir, with respect, how can you possibly know what that thing's body language means? Because, Zexstar said, watching as the massive creature moved with deliberate gentleness, I'm learning to see it through human eyes. And humans, apparently, see things very differently than the rest of us. The dragon stopped just outside the station's docking bay, its massive head turning to look directly through the viewing port at the command crew.
The child waved again and pointed at the station, clearly trying to communicate something.
I think, Zexstar said slowly, she wants to come aboard.
And she wants to bring her new friend with her.
The implications of that simple statement sent shockwaves through the entire command deck. Allow Mortis Rex onto their station? The creature that had destroyed entire civilizations? It was unthinkable.
But, as Zexstar watched the child's innocent face and saw the gentle way the ancient creature held itself, he began to wonder if the real question wasn't whether they could trust Mortis Rex, but whether they could trust their own preconceptions about what monsters really look like. Outside, the child continued to wave, her smile bright with the simple joy of someone who had just made a new friend. And, beside her, the galaxy's most feared predator waited patiently, its burning eyes now gentle as starlight, for the scared adults to find the courage that came so naturally to human children. Dr. Sarah Santos burst through the command deck doors like a force of nature, her human features twisted with panic and determination. Her breathing was ragged, her usually neat brown hair disheveled from running through the station corridors. Behind her followed Commander Jack Morrison, the human military liaison, and Professor Elena Vasquez, the team's xenopsychologist.
Where is she?
Sarah demanded, her eyes scanning the alien faces around the command deck.
Where's my daughter?
Captain Zexstar gestured toward the viewing port with one of his 4 arms.
Dr. Santos, you need to see this. But, please, prepare yourself for Emma.
Sarah's scream cut through his words as she spotted her daughter sitting calmly on the snout of the most dangerous creature in known space.
Oh my God, what is she doing? How did she get out there?
That's what we're trying to understand, Zexstar replied carefully. Your daughter appears to have formed some kind of connection with the entity designated Mortis Rex. Commander Morrison stepped forward, his weathered face grim.
Captain, we need immediate evacuation protocols.
That thing could kill her in a heartbeat. Actually, Commander, Professor Vasquez interrupted, her eyes wide as she studied the scene through the viewing port. Look at the creature's posture.
Its body language suggests complete docility. This is unprecedented.
Sarah pressed herself against the viewing port, her hands flat against the reinforced glass.
Emma, baby, what have you done?
Outside, the child noticed her mother's arrival.
Emma's face lit up with excitement, and she waved enthusiastically before pointing at the massive dragon beneath her.
Her mouth moved as she called out something, but the vacuum of space prevented any sound from reaching them. She's trying to tell us something, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face.
My baby girl is trying to tell us something important. Lieutenant Sheelan's crystalline form flickered nervously.
Dr. Santos, we need to understand how this happened. Your daughter should not be able to survive in vacuum, regardless of her medical condition. Sarah wiped her eyes and forced herself to think like a scientist rather than a terrified mother.
Emma has Bohr's syndrome. It's a rare genetic condition that affects lung capacity and pressure tolerance.
She can hold her breath for nearly 20 minutes and withstand pressure changes that would kill most humans. But, even so, she shouldn't be able to survive in complete vacuum.
Unless, Professor Vasquez said thoughtfully, she's not actually in complete vacuum.
Every alien in the room turned to stare at the human professor.
Chief Science Officer Velmotha's mandibles clicked rapidly. Explain. Look at the space around them, Vasquez pointed.
There's a faint shimmer in the area immediately surrounding your daughter and the creature.
It's subtle, but it's there.
Zexstar activated the high-resolution scanners and focused them on the space around Emma and Mortis Rex.
The readings that came back defied explanation. Impossible, Velmoth chittered. There's a localized atmosphere around them. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace gases. It's essentially a perfect bubble of breathable air. The dragon is creating it, Frendel realized.
Somehow, that creature is maintaining a protective environment around the child.
Commander Morrison shook his head in disbelief. You're telling me that thing is keeping my daughter alive? Not just alive, Zexstar said quietly. Protected. Cared for. This changes everything we thought we knew about Mortis Rex.
Sarah pressed closer to the viewing port, studying her daughter's interactions with the massive creature.
Emma always had a way with animals.
Back on Earth, she could calm the most aggressive dogs, make friends with wildcats that wouldn't let anyone else near them.
But, this is different, Vasquez finished.
This is a creature that has terrorized the galaxy for millennia, showing maternal protective behavior toward a human child. Outside, Emma had stood up again and was pointing toward the station. She placed one small hand on Mortis Rex's snout and spoke to the creature. The dragon's massive head turned to follow her gesture, its burning eyes focusing on the command deck with unmistakable intelligence.
It understands her, Sarah breathed. They're communicating. How is that possible? Sheilin demanded. Mortis Rex has never shown any capacity for communication beyond telepathic screams of rage.
Maybe, Commander Morrison said slowly, we've only ever given it reasons to scream.
The implications of his statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket.
For 3,000 years, every encounter with Mortis Rex had been violent.
Military fleets had attacked it on sight. Scientists had tried to capture and study it like a specimen.
No one had ever considered that the creature might be acting in self-defense. Sir, Communications Officer Threndal interrupted, we're receiving another transmission.
This time it's from the Galactic Council Emergency Response Fleet. Admiral Crixton is demanding an immediate status update.
Zexstar's tail lashed behind him in agitation. Admiral Crixton commanded the most powerful military force in the galaxy, and his approach to problems typically involved overwhelming firepower.
Patch him through.
The holographic image of Admiral Crixton materialized in the center of the command deck. The massive draconian scale features were set in their characteristic expression of barely contained aggression. His voice boomed through the speakers like rolling thunder.
Captain Zexstar. We've detected the energy signature of Mortis Rex in your sector. Why hasn't evacuation been completed?
My fleet is prepared to engage and destroy the creature. Admiral, Zexstar began carefully, the situation is more complex than our initial reports indicated. There is nothing complex about a Class Omega threat, Captain. That abomination has been responsible for the destruction of 17 star systems.
It must be eliminated immediately. Sarah stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Admiral, there's a child out there.
The Draconian's massive head swiveled toward her, his reptilian eyes narrowing.
A human child?
What relevance does this have to the child is with Mortis Rex, Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. They appear to have formed a bond.
If you attack, you'll kill my daughter. Admiral Crixton's expression shifted from aggression to confusion. Explain. Professor Vasquez stepped forward. Admiral, we're observing unprecedented behavior from the entity.
It's showing protective instincts toward the child, maintaining a breathable atmosphere around her, demonstrating clear communication abilities.
This suggests that our understanding of Mortis Rex's nature may be fundamentally flawed. You're suggesting that the most dangerous creature in known space is, what? Misunderstood?
I'm suggesting, Commander Morrison interjected, that maybe it's time we stopped shooting first and asked questions later.
Admiral Crixton's laugh was like grinding stone.
Commander Morrison, your species has been part of the galactic community for less than 50 years. You have no understanding of the threat this creature represents. And, your species, Sarah shot back, her maternal protective instincts overriding diplomatic protocol, has been trying to kill it for 3,000 years without ever trying to understand what it actually wants.
The command deck fell silent.
Every alien present stared at the human mother who had just challenged one of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy.
Admiral Crickston's expression was unreadable.
Outside, Emma had apparently grown tired of waiting. She slid down from Mortis Rex's snout to stand on the creature's lower jaw, her small form dwarfed by the massive fangs around her.
But, instead of being threatened by the deadly environment, she appeared to be examining the dragon's teeth with scientific curiosity. She's treating it like a dental examination, Velmoth observed with amazement. The child shows no fear whatsoever.
Emma's always been curious about everything, Sarah said proudly, despite her terror. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She says she wants to help creatures that nobody else understands.
The irony of that statement wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Emma looked up then, seeming to notice the increased activity around the station.
She waved at the viewing port again and called out something. This time, the station's advanced lip-reading algorithms managed to interpret her words.
She's saying, "Mommy, look. He's not scary at all. He just needs a friend." Threndell translated. Sarah broke down completely, sliding to her knees beside the viewing port. "Oh, Emma. My brave, impossible little girl."
"Admiral," Zexstar said quietly, "request permission to delay any military action until we can safely extract the child."
"And how exactly do you propose to do that, Captain? That creature won't allow anyone to approach." As if summoned by his words, Mortis Rex began to move.
The massive dragon rose slowly from its resting position, carrying Emma with careful precision. Instead of moving away from the station, however, it approached one of the docking bays. "It's coming toward us," Sheilin whispered.
"The docking bay," Velmoth added. "It's heading directly for docking bay 7.
"That's impossible," Admiral Crickston stated.
"The creature is too large to fit inside any standard docking facility."
But, as they watched, something extraordinary happened. Mortis Rex began to shimmer and contract, its massive form folding in on itself like origami made of starlight. The process was hypnotic and beautiful, defying every law of physics they understood.
"Shapeshifting," Professor Vasquez breathed. "It's a shapeshifter."
When the transformation was complete, Mortis Rex had taken the form of a creature roughly the size of a large earthhorse, though it retained its draconic features and midnight black scales. Emma rode on its back like a child on a carousel, clapping her hands in delight.
"The docking bay atmospheric shields are activating," Threndell reported. "It's requesting standard docking permission." "Requesting permission?" Admiral Crickston's voice was faint with disbelief.
"Using proper galactic standard communication protocols," Threndell confirmed.
"Perfect syntax and grammar."
Sarah stood up, wiping her tears.
"Admiral, I'm going to that docking bay to get my daughter. You can either help me or stay out of my way."
"Dr. Santos," Admiral Crickston said slowly, "if this creature shows any sign of aggression, then, you can blast us all to atoms," Sarah replied. "But, until then, that's my little girl out there, and she needs her mother."
Commander Morrison stepped up beside her. "I'll accompany Dr. Santos."
"As will I," Professor Vasquez added. Zexstar looked around at his crew, then, at the humans who were willing to risk everything for one small child.
"Admiral, I'm declaring this a first contact situation under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter. All military action is suspended pending diplomatic resolution." Admiral Crickston stared at him for a long moment.
"Captain, if you're wrong about this, you'll be responsible for the destruction of your entire station and everyone on it."
"And, if I'm right," Zexstar replied, "we might just prevent a war that's been going on for 3,000 years.
The holographic communication cut out, leaving the command deck in tense silence. In the distance, they could see Mortis Rex approaching docking bay 7, carrying its precious passenger with the care of a parent bringing their child home from a day of adventure.
"Well," Commander Morrison said grimly, "I guess we're about to find out what humanity's newest friendship is really worth."
Docking Bay 7 had never hosted anything more dangerous than a cargo freighter, but now it contained the most feared creature in galactic history.
Emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the metallic walls as the atmospheric shields hummed with barely contained energy.
The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension as dozens of station personnel watched from behind reinforced barriers. Dr. Sarah Santos stood at the entrance to the docking bay, her hand resting on the door controls. Behind her, Commander Morrison checked his sidearm for the third time, though they all knew conventional weapons would be useless against Mortis Rex. Professor Vasquez held her portable translation device, hoping against hope that it might help facilitate communication. Atmospheric composition is stable, Chief Science Officer Velmoth reported through the comm system.
Oxygen-nitrogen mix suitable for human respiration. The creature appears to be maintaining the environment for the child's benefit. Life signs?
Sarah asked, her voice tight with controlled fear. Both the child and the entity show stable readings.
No signs of distress or aggression. Through the reinforced viewing window, they could see Emma sliding down from Mortis Rex's back with the carefree enthusiasm of a child at a playground.
The dragon, now roughly horse-sized but still unmistakably the legendary terror of space, lowered its head to nuzzle her gently as she landed. She's treating it like a pet, Commander Morrison observed with wonder and horror.
No, Professor Vasquez corrected, studying the interaction carefully. She's treating it like a friend. Look at the body language.
That creature is deferring to her, showing submission and affection.
This isn't a pet-owner relationship.
This is genuine friendship.
Sarah's hand trembled on the door controls. I'm going in.
Dr. Santos, Captain Zexstar's voice crackled through the calm. Perhaps we should attempt remote communication first. That's my daughter in there, Sarah cut him off.
I'm not talking to her through a speaker system.
She turned to Morrison and Vasquez.
You don't have to come with me. Try and stop me, Morrison replied grimly. The doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Sarah stepped into the docking bay. The first thing that struck her was the warmth, not the cold recycled air of the station, but something alive and organic, like standing near a campfire on a summer evening. Mommy! Emma's voice echoed through the bay as she spotted her mother.
The 8-year-old ran toward Sarah with arms outstretched, her face bright with excitement.
Mommy, you have to meet Rex. He's wonderful.
Sarah dropped to her knees and caught Emma in a fierce embrace, tears streaming down her face.
Emma, baby, are you hurt? Are you okay? I'm fine, Mommy. Rex kept me safe. He made sure I could breathe and everything.
Emma pulled back from the hug, her eyes sparkling with childish enthusiasm.
He's not mean at all. He's just lonely.
Over Emma's shoulder, Sarah could see Mortis Rex watching them with those burning golden eyes. Up close, the creature was even more magnificent and terrifying than the sensor readings had suggested. Its scales seemed to shift and flow like liquid shadow, and energy crackled around its form like captured lightning.
Yet its posture was completely non-threatening, almost humble. Emma, Sarah said carefully, sweetie, do you understand what this creature is? What it's done? Emma's face scrunched up in confusion. What do you mean? Rex hasn't done anything bad.
People just shoot at him all the time, so he has to protect himself.
The simple innocence of her statement sent shockwaves through everyone listening.
Commander Morrison stepped forward slowly, his hand away from his weapon.
Emma, he said gently, can you ask Rex if he can understand us? Emma turned toward the dragon and spoke in her clear, childish voice.
Rex, my mommy and her friends want to know if you can understand them. Mortis Rex raised his massive head and looked directly at Commander Morrison.
When the creature spoke, its voice was like distant thunder, deep and resonant and utterly alien.
Yet the words that emerged were perfectly clear galactic standard.
I understand, small warrior.
I have understood the speech of your kind for longer than your species has existed among the stars.
The silence that followed was absolute. Every person in the docking bay and monitoring from the command deck stared in stunned amazement. Mortis Rex could speak. The creature they had feared and hunted for millennia was fully sentient and capable of communication. Professor Vasquez was the first to recover. Why have you never spoken before?
The dragon's gaze shifted to her, and something almost like amusement flickered in those ancient eyes.
Would you speak to creatures that greeted you with weapons and cages?
Your kind has never approached me in peace.
Only this little one has shown me kindness. Emma skipped back over to Mortis Rex and patted his snout affectionately.
Rex told me he's been alive for a really long time. He remembers when the galaxy was different.
when there were other dragons like him. Other dragons? Sarah asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear.
My people, Mortis Rex replied, his voice heavy with ancient sadness. We were the shepherds of this galaxy before your civilizations arose. We maintained the balance, guided the growth of new life, protected the weak. But, as the younger races grew in number and power, they began to fear us.
What happened to them? Commander Morrison asked. They were hunted. Driven extinct.
I am the last of my kind, and I have spent 3,000 years trying to understand what I did wrong.
What crime I committed that made the entire galaxy my enemy?
The weight of that revelation settled over everyone present like a physical force. The most feared creature in known space wasn't a monster at all. It was a refugee.
The last survivor of a genocide.
But, you've destroyed civilizations, Morrison protested weakly.
Entire star systems, in self-defense, Mortis Rex replied firmly.
When fleets of warships attack without warning, when they seek to capture and experiment upon me, when they threaten the few places where I can find peace, yes, I defend myself. I am not defenseless, and I will not allow myself to be exterminated like my people were.
Emma looked up at the adults around her with the serious expression children get when they're trying to explain something important to confused grown-ups. See? Rex isn't bad. He's just scared and sad.
When people are scared and sad, sometimes they do things that seem mean, but really they just need someone to be nice to them. Sarah knelt down beside her daughter, marveling at the wisdom that seemed to come so naturally to children.
Emma, how did you know? How did you know Rex wasn't dangerous?
Because he feels the same way I do sometimes, Emma replied simply.
When kids at school are mean to me because I'm different, I feel angry and want to be mean back. But, when someone is nice to me, I want to be nice too. Rex just needed someone to be nice first. The truth of that statement hit every adult present like a physical blow.
A 8-year-old child had succeeded where 3,000 years of military might and scientific study had failed. Not through superior technology or greater firepower, but through simple human compassion.
Rex, Professor Vasquez said hesitantly, if we could guarantee your safety, if we could promise that no one would attack you anymore, would you be willing to help us understand? To teach us about your people and their knowledge? The dragon considered this for a long moment, his ancient eyes studying each human face in turn. You speak of guarantees, knowledge seeker. But, how can you promise what you cannot control? Your Admiral Crixton even now prepares his fleet to destroy me.
I can feel his hatred burning like a star across the void. Then, we need to change his mind, Commander Morrison said firmly.
We need to show him what Emma showed us. That you're not the monster we thought you were. And, how do you propose to do that, warrior? Will you ask him to trust the word of creatures he sees as primitive newcomers to the galactic community?
No, Sarah said, standing up with sudden determination. We're going to ask him to trust the evidence of his own eyes.
She activated her comm unit. Captain Zexstar, are you recording this conversation? Every word, Dr. Santos. Good. Transmit it to Admiral Crixton's fleet. All of it.
Let him hear the truth about what Mortis Rex really is. Dr. Santos, Zexstar's voice was uncertain. The Admiral may not be receptive to then, we make him receptive, Sarah interrupted.
Emma, sweetie, do you think Rex would be willing to talk to the Admiral? To explain things himself? Emma looked up at Mortis Rex with complete confidence. Rex? Will you talk to the scary Admiral? I think he just needs someone to explain things properly. The dragon's massive head lowered until he was eye level with the small child. Little one, your faith in the goodness of others is remarkable.
But, some hearts have been hardened by too many years of war and fear.
But, we have to try, right? That's what Mommy always says. We have to try to help people understand, even when it's hard.
Mortis Rex was quiet for a long moment, and, when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of centuries.
Very well, young Emma.
For you, I will try once more to speak peace to those who have known only war. Through the calm system, they heard Captain Zexstar's voice. Admiral Crixton is requesting direct communication with the entity.
He says he wants to hear its words for himself.
Sarah looked around at the faces of her companions, then, down at her daughter who had somehow managed to bridge a gap that had existed for millennia.
Emma, you've done something incredible here today. Something that's going to change everything. Emma smiled up at her mother with the simple satisfaction of a job well done. I just made a friend, Mommy. Everyone needs friends.
Yes, sweetheart, Sarah said, hugging her daughter close while watching the ancient dragon prepare to speak to his greatest enemy.
Everyone needs friends. Even dragons.
As they waited for Admiral Crixton to establish communication, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns life could take.
This morning, her biggest worry had been keeping Emma entertained during the research mission.
Now, her 8-year-old daughter had potentially prevented a war and changed the course of galactic history. All because she had chosen kindness over fear, understanding over hatred. All because she had seen a lonely creature in need of a friend, and decided to be that friend. The holographic projector in Docking Bay 7 flickered to life, casting the imposing figure of Admiral Crixton in shimmering blue light. The draconian military leader appeared even more intimidating as a hologram, his massive scale form and burning eyes radiating barely controlled aggression.
His fleet of 12 Dreadnought-class warships waited in formation just outside the system, their weapons charged and ready.
So, Admiral Crixton's voice rumbled through the bay like an approaching storm. The terror of the galaxy wishes to speak.
I confess myself, curious.
Emma, still standing beside Mortis Rex with her small hand resting on his snout, looked up at the holographic admiral with the fearless directness that only children possessed.
He's not a terror.
His name is Rex, and he's very nice once you get to know him.
The admiral's reptilian features twisted into what might have been amusement.
Child, you speak of the creature responsible for the destruction of 17 star systems as if it were a household pet. 17 systems, Mortis Rex spoke for himself, his ancient voice carrying across the bay with quiet dignity, defended themselves against unprovoked attacks.
I have never struck first, Admiral.
I have only defended myself when your people sought to cage me, dissect me, or destroy me.
You expect me to believe that every encounter with your kind has been defensive?
Crixton's laugh was harsh. The Battle of Kepler's Gate alone resulted in 2 million casualties. Kepler's Gate, Mortis Rex replied, his voice heavy with old pain, where I was attempting to prevent your mining operations from disturbing a nursery world. The young creatures there were just beginning to develop sentience. Your people were strip mining their planet while they hibernated, unknowing that you were destroying the next generation of their species.
The Admiral's expression shifted slightly. You were protecting them? I tried to communicate.
I sent peaceful overtures through hyperspace channels, traditional greeting patterns that any species with basic xenobiological knowledge should have recognized. Instead, I was met with quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons. Professor Vasquez stepped forward, her translation device beeping softly as it processed and verified the dragon's words. Admiral, our historical records from Kepler's Gate make no mention of attempted communication or protected species. Because, Commander Morrison added grimly, the mining consortium that hired the military escort probably didn't want to admit they were committing genocide.
Easier to paint the defender as a monster. Admiral Crixton was silent for a long moment, his burning eyes fixed on Mortis Rex. Even if I accept your version of events, creature, you possess the power to destroy entire fleets. Your very existence threatens the stability of the galaxy. Does it?
Emma piped up, looking between the Admiral and her new friend with confusion. Rex has been alive for thousands of years, but he only fights when people try to hurt him.
If everyone just left him alone, there wouldn't be any fighting at all.
Child, you cannot possibly understand the complexities. Actually, Admiral, Dr. Sarah Santos interrupted, her voice firm with protective maternal authority. I think my daughter understands the situation perfectly.
You've spent 3,000 years trying to solve a problem with violence. She solved it in 3 hours with kindness. And what exactly has she solved, Dr. Santos? Sarah gestured toward Mortis Rex, who was allowing Emma to climb onto his back despite being surrounded by potential enemies. She's proven that this monster is capable of peace, friendship, and restraint. She's shown us that the real problem isn't the dragon, it's our approach to the dragon. One child's interaction hardly constitutes scientific proof. Then, let me provide more comprehensive evidence, Mortis Rex interrupted.
The dragon's eyes began to glow with a soft golden light, and, suddenly, the air around them shimmered with holographic images. What you see now, the ancient creature continued, are memories. My memories, preserved across millennia. The holograms showed vast cities floating in space, populated by beings that look like smaller versions of Mortis Rex. They moved through the galaxy not as conquerors but as guardians, tending to young worlds, guiding the development of new species, maintaining the delicate balance that allowed civilization to flourish. We were caretakers, Mortis Rex explained as the images shifted to show dragons working alongside various alien species, teaching, protecting, nurturing. For 100,000 years, we shepherded the galaxy's growth. We prevented wars, stopped extinctions, and helped countless species reach for the stars. The images changed, showing the first attacks against the dragons. Fear and misunderstanding driving younger species to violence against their protectors. The systematic hunting and extermination of beings whose only crime was being different and powerful. You see, Mortis Rex continued, his voice filled with ancient sorrow, I am not the monster your people believe me to be. I am a refugee. The last survivor of a species that died trying to protect the very civilizations that destroyed them. Admiral Crixton stared at the holographic memories, his expression unreadable. Around the docking bay, every person present watched in stunned silence as their understanding of galactic history was turned upside down.
If this is true, the Admiral said slowly, then, we have been wrong about everything.
Not everything, Emma said cheerfully, sliding down from Rex's back to stand before the holographic Admiral.
You were wrong about Rex being bad, but you were right about wanting to protect people. Rex wants to protect people too. You both want the same thing, you just didn't know how to talk about it.
The simplicity of her statement cut through millennia of misunderstanding like a blade. Admiral Crixton looked down at the human child who had somehow managed to see what military strategists and xenobiologists had missed for 3,000 years.
Child, he said softly, do you truly believe this creature means no harm? Emma nodded solemnly. Rex told me about all the planets he's been protecting.
He showed me pictures in my head of baby animals and little civilizations that needed help.
He's like a really big park ranger.
But, instead of protecting a forest, he protects the whole galaxy. A park ranger, Admiral Crixton repeated, and, for the first time, something that might have been humor flickered in his ancient eyes. Admiral, Captain Zextar's voice crackled through the comm system, I'm receiving reports from across the sector.
Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the galactic rim. Unknown vessels, configuration unlike anything in our databases.
Mortis Rex's head snapped up, his eyes suddenly blazing with urgent fire.
No. They have found me at last. Who? Commander Morrison demanded. Who's found you?
The Devourers, Mortis Rex replied, his voice filled with primal fear.
The ancient enemy.
The reason my people became guardians in the first place. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. The holographic images around them shifted, showing creatures of pure darkness sweeping through space, draining the life from everything they touched.
Planets withered and died.
Stars were extinguished.
Entire civilizations vanished without a trace.
They return every 100,000 years, Mortis Rex explained urgently. They sleep in the void between galaxies, but, when they wake, they hunger.
My people fought them for eons, keeping them from consuming everything we held dear. And, now? Admiral Crixton asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Now there is only me.
One guardian against a force that once required thousands to contain. Emma reached up and took Mortis Rex's massive claw in her small hand.
You don't have to fight them alone, Rex. You have friends now. Admiral Crixton's hologram flickered as he processed this new information.
Around the galaxy, emergency signals were beginning to reach military commands and civilian authorities. The approaching threat was real, and it was vast beyond comprehension. Creature, the Admiral said finally, if what you show us is true, then we face extinction.
Yes, Mortis Rex replied simply.
Unless we work together as my people and your ancestors once did, long ago before memory divided us.
You're asking me to trust the word of someone we've considered our greatest enemy.
No, Emma interrupted, looking up at the holographic Admiral with complete confidence.
He's asking you to trust me.
And I'm telling you that Rex is good, and he wants to help, and we're all going to be in really big trouble if we keep fighting each other instead of fighting the real bad guys. The docking bay fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the distant alarms beginning to sound throughout the station. Everyone present understood that they stood at a crossroads that would determine the fate of galactic civilization. Admiral Crixton looked from the ancient dragon to the human child who had somehow managed to bridge 3,000 years of hatred and fear. His next words would either save the galaxy or doom it. Dr. Santos, he said finally, you have raised a remarkable daughter.
Thank you, Admiral.
Child, he addressed Emma directly, do you truly believe this dragon, this Rex, can help us against this threat?
Emma nodded with absolute certainty.
Rex is really, really old and, really, really smart. And, he knows all about the bad things that eat stars. Plus, he's super strong and, he can do magic and, stuff. But, most important, he wants to protect everyone, just like you do. Admiral Crixton was quiet for a long moment, then, his massive form straightened into a formal military posture. Mortis Rex, he said formally, I speak for the Galactic Council Military Command.
We request your assistance in defending our civilization against the approaching threat.
And, I, Mortis Rex replied with equal formality, accept your request. But, know this, Admiral, I will not fight alone. If we are to succeed, your people must put aside their fear and work with me as partners, not as masters commanding a weapon.
Agreed, Crixton nodded. What do you need?
Mortis Rex's form began to shimmer and expand, growing larger until he nearly filled the docking bay. His voice, when he spoke, carried the authority of countless eons.
First, we must evacuate the border systems.
The Devourers will consume everything in their path, but if we can guide civilian populations to safety, we can save billions of lives. Second, we must gather every ship, every weapon, every resource your civilizations possess.
And, third.
He looked down at Emma, who was still holding his claw despite the fact that he now towered above them like a mountain of living shadow and starlight. Third, we must remember what this little one has taught us. That understanding and cooperation are stronger than fear and hatred. That sometimes the greatest strength comes not from weapons or armies, but from the simple courage to extend friendship to those who are different from ourselves.
Emma smiled up at him. Don't worry, Rex. We're going to win. Good guys always win when they work together.
And, as alarms sounded across the galaxy and ancient evils stirred in the void between stars, everyone present found themselves believing that maybe, just maybe, an 8-year-old human child was right. After all, she had already done the impossible once today.
Admiral Crixton's hologram began to flicker as he prepared to coordinate the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Mortis Rex, how long do we have?
The ancient dragon's eyes turned toward the galactic rim, where darkness was beginning to blot out the stars.
3 days, Admiral. Perhaps 4 if we are fortunate.
Then, we had better get started, Commander Morrison said grimly.
Emma tugged on her mother's hand. Mommy, can Rex come have dinner with us?
I want to tell him about Earth food, and he can tell me more stories about the old days. As the most powerful beings in the galaxy prepared for war against an enemy that could devour worlds, Dr. Sarah Santos looked down at her daughter and smiled.
Of course, sweetheart. I think Rex would like that very much.
Because in the end, friendship, real, genuine friendship, was exactly what the galaxy needed most.